Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to our weekly commodities price forecast. This is where I do analysis on natural gas, oil, US dollar, gold, and silver. We'll be looking at their support and resistance levels, as well as the most likely scenario where price potentially might head to. Also, look at multiple time frame analysis. And if you guys are looking for the stock market update video, where I did the MEG 7s and the QQQ S&P 400, check out the video from yesterday. And let's get started on natural gas. So before getting the charts, if your chart looks a bit different than mine, make sure you click this B80G on the bottom right corner right here. Adjusted for contracts gaps, and take a look. So talking about this head and shoulders potentially shaping up a couple of weeks now, and it's looking like it's shaping up. So what bulls need to do is to hold pretty much right here at this level, this 3.33, which is price support around this area as well, a little bit here, and to form a weekly higher low, meaning this is a weekly. So just means that this weekly low, we want it to be higher than the prior low. So it can potentially change the weekly trend back to the bull's favor. And you can see right here, this is the first weekly uptrend confirmed here since many years, just say, all the way up here. Um, and the amount of follow through that we got, right? It was a 77% move after that weekly uptrend confirmed from here. And then from here, it's made a lower high and lower low, and they have confirmed back the weekly downtrend. And you can see it got a decent amount of follow through as well after it confirmed from the here to here, right? So that's 20% downside. So for the bulls to negate, this weekly head and shoulders look, um, we want to make a weekly higher low and pretty much make a stance either here, even if we poke a little bit under, right? We want to not break essentially this pivot and potentially form a higher low and a higher high to break back above this prior high, give us back a weekly uptrend. If we can confirm that weekly uptrend, then we may potentially look for like a bigger, tiny range kind of move. But before that, still too early to say any kind of that for now. Um, as for bears, you want to break right at this 3.033 mark. Doesn't have to be exact. Support resistance are an area. So if we can break this pivot, it also confirms that head and shoulders look, and it breaks the support of this, right? So this was prior resistance, prior major resistance, prior major resistance. Finally broke out. This is the first back test, right? First back test here held for 3 days. Then bulls bounced a little bit, but now we coming back near it. So if bears break 3.33, we're likely coming down to revisit this area. And if they do break it, then that's kind of bad sign. It means we're coming back to this all-time low structure again. Um, if that happens, then we zoom out to the monthly, and it would just look like a big monthly tiny range. Huge move up, right? And if we break like those $3 mark, then it'll be a huge move down. And the most likely scenario is we're probably not gonna just straight cut the lows. It'll at least bounce a little bit, and then we'll see if it kind of tightens up. So that's what we're looking at. A couple of scenarios there. So yeah, in terms of bulls, right, you just pretty much need to bounce here, and we need to get over this downtrending line, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 rejections. We're here. So just that, yeah, 6 rejections here. So essentially, if we hold here, bounce, break through this downtrending line, break above this pivot, confirm back the weekly uptrend, then we're gonna go back to looking at this $4 resistance, yeah, which is this 52 high structure. But we can't, come up, bounce, reject, pull back, then we're looking down closer to this $3 mark. So those are the two signs, looking for bulls and bears. If you guys learn anything, or feel free to like, share, and subscribe. It's always appreciated supporting the channel. Let's continue with oil. So oil, let's take a look here. They just moved my Anyways, so this is ascending triangle look, right? Ascending triangle is just a higher high, sorry, higher lows. Each time the lows are higher than the prior low. That's why it's called higher lows, and the highs are equal. So it's like all the tops are equal. So that's pretty much ascending triangle right now. Um, so if we can pretty much to clear resistance, right? The 63 around this area is the resistance. If we don't break it this week, right? For example, if futures open night Monday, right? We get a red day, come back, then we're just looking back. I want to do that. So we're just looking back a little bit closer to the green line again. As long as it doesn't break this low, right? This could cut, break this, and come kind of like here, and then bounce. That'll still be valid. As long as it doesn't break this prior low, just like this one held here, and then we come back, and then so we bounce again. That would be what we'd be looking for. But if we do break above, right, break this resistance right here, then looking up closer back up to the 65 mark, which is where we broke down from, right? Traded in here for like ages. I don't know how many years. Let's see, yeah, many years. And we broke down here, broke below here. Now that area is acting resistance, right? Prior supports bounced in this area, bounced in this area. Now it's rejecting from this area. So if bulls can finally crack through here, break above, then we're back in this area again. Then we'd be surprised where if we just, you know, traded this area again like this, if we can break above, come back into here. All right, the US dollar. Big picture, right? Rejection, rejection, rejection. Bounce, 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 bounce. That's the bigger picture. And let's zoom into the daily. So daily, we talked about this inverse head and shoulders 2 weeks ago. Right here. Confirmed. Back test. Held. Bounce. Big bounce. And now it's holding. So if we can continue the trend, it's kind of like a mini daily uptrend, but it's sort of starting to shape up more structures now, right? Talk about this EMA 12. On the way down, it's acting as resistance, and on the way up over here, it's starting to act as support. So it's a good sign. So if we continue to hold it, then we may potentially look back up close to this 102. And ultimately, right, we did break this first downtrending resistance line here, here, reject, reject. Finally cracked through here, right? We cracked it right there. This, and you can see the big move. So if bulls continue to go sideways, something like this, probably longer term, we might look back at this 102 area, which is the second downtrending line. We had this multiple rejections, multiple rejections, multiple rejections, multiple rejections. So we may get some resistance here, which if we do come up, around here, say in June, right, it's coinciding with this whole sideways range here. So we may get a potentially like that. But that's still quite a bit away. So as long as daily uptrend intact, short term is back in bull's favor. Longer term, still some work to do, right? We need a weekly uptrend here. At the moment, it's just one weekly move. So when we do pull back on the weekly, let's see if we can confirm, like a weekly bull flag or something, and then confirm that weekly uptrend, making it high. And let's take a look at gold and silver. Okay, so here we're pretty much backtesting, right? Backtesting this resistance, 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 support, 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 support. Pretty much both of those lines are right at the area. So where we broke off from, pretty much backtesting. Did bounce, right? It makes sense if you have 5 days of red into area of support. It does make sense to bounce, but it doesn't mean it's going to hold forever. So we got to bounce, and then we didn't really bounce that high. So this is looking like a little bit of bear flag here to me. So let's measure this top of the move to the bottom of the move. Yeah, we're just kind of like underneath it. Read the poke above 0.382. But overall, the idea of the bear flag is just a weak bounce. So you don't have to be like, exactly, oh, you poked over it. It's not a bear flag anymore. Idea of it is just a weak bounce and that it can roll over. So currently, it is a weak bounce. So for bulls, you want to get above this 3254 on GC to negate that kind of like that bear flag feel and get at least a 50% retracement bounce, or potentially up to around 3327, where there's resistance around here for volume, where all this is traded at. If you can get over that, then that's a good sign. Then we may look for more of a potential sideways action. But this is going to be a weak bounce. We may confirm that bear flag and head lower if this breaks, this pivot breaks. And if that breaks, we're potentially looking back down to 3081 and then back to that 3000 psychological level down here, which you can see prior resistance, back test support, right? 3000 prior resistance, finally got over it, breakout, back test, 3000 active support, bounce again. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do come down, here, if this bear flag confirms, right, we end up coming back here and back test, and then we bounce again. Then we can zoom out, to the weekly time frame. Then that might look a little bit like kind of like a head and shoulders look. We straight shoot down to 3000 next week, and then bounce. But for now, it's holding that weekly EMA 12 on the steel looking line, which exponential moving average 12. You can see on the way up on the weekly, bounce, bounce, bounce again, bounced again. So first sign, right, confirm that daily bear flag, and then break through that weekly EMA 12, hold below. And that'll be a first win for the Bears that we've seen in a while. Because at the end of the day, if you're a bull longer term holder, this is just a little mini sideways blip, right? The Bears hasn't really done any damage yet. But if we start breaking these structures, and this structure starts to act as resistance, which is doing right now, right? Bounce back. This high is the low of this structure. So currently, this all-time high structure is acting as resistance, and we break below, then we'll have to start. Bears will at least have some structures to work with now. And let's take a look at silver, any kind of relative strength and weakness still. I say holding them a little bit better. So you can see how gold is trading beneath here already. Silver is kind of like holding around here. Silver is like roughly here, right in the mid of the range. And gold is like around here right now. So slightly relative strength, just holding up a little bit. But the reason I don't like it is because even though it's starting to shift a little bit tiny to relative strength, what happens if it goes like this, right? This rolls over, regardless of the relative strength, this is still going to slightly drop as well, right? And why being something that's didn't run that much versus kind of just sized up on this, and you get a beautiful uptrend every single day compared to silver. But for now, it is forming a nice looking weekly bull flag, right? Zoom out to the weekly, bottom move to top of the move, solid weekly bull flag. We retrace still above this yellow box right here. So it's currently just kind of flagging. So if, let's just hypothetically speaking, if gold holds here, bounces next week back above this this structure, right? Back in here. And then goes sideways here a little bit while silver continues to flag. And let's just say gold makes another leg up. We don't know if that's going to happen or not, but as long as it's holding its prior structures, right? Every time it builds structure here, bounce, back test the structure, bounce, build a little bit of structure here. It's currently back testing the structure. So if we back test the structure again, bounce, and form another sideways structure and then go higher again, that's totally possible, right? We don't want to negate that possibility as well. Then this weekly bull flag may shape up and break bull if that happens on gold. So, and if this relative strength holds, we want to see when gold breaks bull. We want to see a bigger, even bigger move when that happens on the weekly bull flag breakout. So the eye watch on that. I know everybody's probably like bear over here on gold after such a big run, but we don't want to negate that possibility where if we start coming back into the structure, then and there the bull's case is still live, right? At the moment, so I don't get too blindsided on one side. So yeah, we'll take it one at a time to see how if these structures get broken or not by the bears. If not, then bulls are absolutely fine. Um, no huge red flags as of now. All right, that's all for you guys. Feel free to check out the Patreon link in the channel for one-on-ones, as well as support the channel. If you'd like to subscribe, I will see you guys next week for more overall stock market updates and commodities. Have a great rest of you guys this weekend.